Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's Metaworld News. Now, we're still in a state of confusion here as to whether we're actually live or not over on YouTube, but we are certainly recording, so fingers crossed everything is good. We know that some of you watch live, but most of you watch in replay, so we're not really too bothered. Let's hope all is good. Today is the 9th of June, and therefore this is our headlines for the week ending 9th of June. And if any confusion about the year, is 2019. Indeed, it is still.
Indeed.
Yes, gonna last a while there. Right, my name is Mal Bones. I'm a sort of news hound. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/malbones. And I run another feed, well, a couple of other feeds actually, but one for this show at twitter.com/metaworldnews. Both of them are sort of compressed into one word, so Malbones becomes, well, Malbones. Whoosh. Metaworld News becomes Metaworld News.
It's
Squash.
because spaces are bad.
It's, it is. It's very hard to eloquently say this, implying the version with the space and the version without. So,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
in doubt, go for without. There we are. That's my definition of, yeah, Twitter. Squashed. If in doubt, without. No, never mind. I'm getting confused myself now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm also joined. You can hear his voice already by James Atloud. He's sitting beside me here, pressing knobs on the desk, which ought to do with switching camera positions, and got his own little monitors beside him there to see what we're up to. And
Yeah.
also he speaks. Yes, he speaks from
Yeah.
time to time too. So welcome, so welcome, James.
once in a great while I speak. That's right.
Well, you don't speak as much as me, is basically it. Yes, very good, very good, very good. Well, indeed, I'm going to start off with the highlights from my Mal Burns feed on Twitter. Um, we always seem to manage to. I always say there's only a few this week, and we end up being on here for an hour or
Yeah,
something. So we'll
yeah.
see how it goes. Um, I just got some a bit fuddled looks before I came on air, sharing my screen of the web pages that I'm going to be talking about because it looks like my lead story is about Oculus. And you're not leading with Oculus, are you? Said somebody.
The Facebook, the farts
Anyway,
book.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, it's something from Facebook called the Sixth Off headset. I thought, what the heck is a Sixth Off? And well, anyway, I figured it was version 6 of a dumb old fart. But yes, I was told that would get a laugh. Do forgive me if it didn't. Right, okay, but showing the screen now, we've got a guy wearing a headset. The thing is so darn cumbersome. He's got to hold his hands up to help him keep it in position. Really, so much for a hands-free headset, eh? Anyway, he's looking through the thing, and the headline here is from VR Scout. .com, so it's VR the letters, then scout.com, no space in the middle, so it's vrscoutsquashed.com, except you don't put squashed, you know what I mean. Right, Oculus Quest shortage. Yes, it's a good sign for VR. Now, this runs contrary to some of the things we heard. I mean, obviously, the Quest, which is Oculus's or Facebook's new contraption, uh, it's untethered, so it's a sort of high-end version of Oculus Go. And I guess it's taken off. It's sort of sold out. So there's a shortage. And this article endeavours to say, sort of why this shortage is a good thing for VR. Presumably, it indicates people are still interested, or maybe it indicates that the same old people are still interested, but they just can't resist buying new products. I don't know. There's two sides to this. Anyway, industry insiders weigh in on the potential impact of the standalone headset. And they got the article here. You've got a little industry commercial using it, which, obviously commercials that use it help. TV shows that involve virtual reality,
Hmm.
tend to have product placements. They choose one headset or another, and it does seem to me that the Oculus variants tend to be the most popular in product placement there. Um, but a quote here saying the Quest shows the first glimpses of VR heading towards the tipping point of it going mainstream. You're going to have to read about it anyway. And oh god, if you want to look at the mugshot, look at that. Um, I'm I don't know what she thinks is sticking in her mouth, but I mean,
She's going,
there's sort of
wow, wow, look
some
at this.
virtual object, like a maybe she's got a virtual lollipop or something.
Hmm.
Won't go there, I don't think. Anyway, yes, enough to sort of read about here. Um, I mean, this, of course, goes in the face of recent developments where the likes of High Fidelity have concluded that there is no mainstream take up on headsets. Wireless, untethered, tethered, brand A, brand B, or brand Z, or the bargain basement ones. Um, it's not going to be mainstream for some considerable amount of time. So it's no use running a platform that's exclusively for people wearing various headsets. But according to this, maybe the indication is different. So we will see. We will see. But quite an extensive bit of reading for you there at vrscout.com. And we'll put that one away. And now we're on virtualrealitytimes.com. This is three words all squashed together. So you've got virtual reality times.com. And this one's that back from June the 3rd, earlier in the week. Um, I haven't actually seen another post on this. So pity Maria's not with us these days. This will be a top story of
Hmm.
the week, no doubt.
Yep.
Anyway, this is roundup of the top virtual reality sex applications and platforms in 2019. Yes, um, porn industry is a highly visual industry. Yes, well, kind of. And it's always been anchored on the delivery of high quality audiovisual content, the emergence of immersive technologies like VR, etc., is obviously a boon for an industry who's always on the new frontiers. Um, and anyway, they kind of round out all the sort of stuff's going on and give us a few obligatory pictures to illustrate also what is that's that's one thing that's going on, I suppose. Um, yeah, so well, as you can see, I don't think there's anything not safe for work in this article, though I suspect if you follow the links, you definitely end up in not safe for work. And yeah, reviewing various platforms and their cost and what they do. And yeah, there's quite a lot of them. So there you are. You got a roundup of
Yep.
sex stuff in VR. Dinner is served. Oh dear, dear. Oh, that's real virtual gay. Well, go figure. Something for everybody in this article. Obviously, let's move on. Right, virtual reality. Two words as one. Dash news. Dot net. And June the 4th, that's midweek by now, I think, isn't it? Or, well, maybe Tuesday, something like that.
Hmm.
Virtual reality and augmented reality spending is set to rocket by 2023, fueled by enterprise use cases, says the IDC. Right, so we got another report that flies in the face of no mainstream take up, though in fact this one does point out that the growth is fueled. I like the rocket and fueled play on words there. Right. By the use in the enterprise. And do actually bear in mind that 2023 is well, no, 4 years away yet. So
Hmm.
it's not predicting what's going to happen at the end of the year or what's going to be in your kids' Christmas stockings. But nevertheless, it's look at the industry in general. Let's put it away. We can revisit that in 4 years' time if we need to. Right. Oculus Quest again. Right. So the top Oculus Quest app passes 1,000 ratings after just 2 weeks. I guess this is the Oculus exclusive experience Vader Immortal, which obviously ties in with Star Wars with a name like that. So I
Hmm.
presume it does
Hmm.
anyway.
Yep.
Um, and it's got 1,000 user ratings, which I presume is the number of people that said, "Yeah, I like it," as opposed to numbers that say, "Yes, I'll buy it." Um, it's um, top rated app on Rift, which is the wired Oculus thing, has 6,000 reviews. So yeah, well, I guess in the space of 2 weeks, 1,000 people have actually got it together to write a review, which is, I suppose, slightly significant. I don't actually know where that was worthy of a highlight on my part, so let's put it away. Right now, this you can't actually see this in my dark mode, but this is it's a trade magazine actually called TVB Europe,
Mm.
um, and they keep you gauged on kind of what's going on across Europe. You know, reports on what TV stations and networks are doing and what equipment the studios are, what new equipment is coming out for studios and production, etc. Um, However, what is actually quite interesting, there's a PwC's Global Entertainment and Media Outlook 2029 to 2023. This is actually a report. And the report found that global spending is going to be rising at 4.3% over 5 years, etc. And well, generally you've got it there. But the curiosity, the reason I posted this is that of that 4.3% growth, VR, which as we all know stands for virtuality, remains the highest growth segment. Although its lead over OTT is slightly diminished. And if you can actually see this graph, which you probably can
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, looks good.
you'll notice here, VR is right at the top here. So, I mean, remember, we're talking about television industry and broadcasters here. This is not a magazine that goes to the public or is of interest normally to anybody unless you're in the TV industry. Um, so it certainly sounds like, as far I still haven't figured out broadcasting VR, how it all fits together. Obviously, we're broadcasting a news show here, which is filmed in VR, but it's not VR as in headset sense. It's just platform, a 3D platform. So I think the future is wide open as to how these sort of things merge. So I'm actually quite surprised to see that. VR interest is up at the top there. It's even of more interest in internet advertising or video games and esports. Cinema is the fifth down. It's just a tiny little line compared with VR at the top. So the other interesting thing, of course, is at the very bottom you've got two categories that are now in negative. In other words, total disinterest. One is traditional TV and home video, and two, they're quite serious. The second one, newspapers and consumer magazines, way into 2.5% decline year on year now. So go figure, go
Mm.
figure. Anyway, good news for VR there. So that's why that particular post is on screen. Again, if you missed the links to these, just go to twitter.com/malburns, MALBURNS, and you'll find a running sort of load of these things, maybe a few others too, in order. And here we have another nice little picture of an eye. Yours truly has a serious case of something like hay fever at the moment, so my eyes are weeping.
Mm.
Yes, they're weeping, weeping. And they've got all solid bits gunking up the eyelashes and all the sort of stuff that you, dear listeners, do not want to know. And be very, very grateful you indeed can't see. Shades or not, you don't. You can be blessed that you were looking at my avatar today and not the real thing. Right. The eyes are the prize. Eye tracking technology is advertising's holy grail. This could be argued to be bad news, actually, as much as good news. The eyes are the prize. Eye tracking technology. Okay. Sorry, I thought there was a double headline on this.
Mm.
Okay, bundled into VR headsets or AR glasses, eye tracking will enable companies to collect your intimate and unconscious responses to real world use cases. Now, or cues. Now, I'm not going to read out this whole article. It's not amazingly long, but it's not short either. This is definitely worth a damn read because I suspect many of you, like me, think of eye tracking as a kind of haptic interface. It's great. If I look to the right of a page or left of a page, the screen shifts the magazine slightly according to where I'm looking, and everything's focused on my eyeballs as opposed to peripheral vision, and all these useful little things. But the software, and the AI software in particular, that actually interprets what it sees in your eyes is actually very, very sophisticated. Not it has to be just to actually calculate movements like that. But if you think Facebook is already invading your privacy, then this article is going to tell you just how much more Facebook and others will be able to intrude upon you by using eye tracking. Anything you've got connected to you that can track your eyes, and this may well include a high-end webcam, even when you're on a 2D screen. Once you can understand it, your eyes give you away, and this is no surprise because I think when you walk into a room and you start talking to somebody, if you're actually looking to the other end of the room, I don't know, and listening to music in a nightclub and eyeing all the ladies dancing or something, and not looking at the person you're talking about, it's sort of really a bit casual. But the moment you make eye contact and keep eye contact, then the relationship, the communication between two people is enhanced. A lot of people say one of the problems with our golden age of virtual worlds at the moment is that you don't have that actual eye contact. We're getting close, but it's not real time. It's animated or things to convince you that you're looking at somebody rather than actually doing so. But if eye tracking becomes a big thing and the software starts number crunching all the information your eyes give away, we actually could well be in serious problems. I mean, advertisers will no longer be looking at what clubs you join or who your friends are and what your friends' clubs are and stuff like that. But they will actually they'll be able to tell from your eyes, for example, if you put a bit of music on, you won't have to press a button saying I rate this music track 9 out of 10. They will know what your rating is by the way your eyes light up while you're listening to it. So there's some serious stuff going on here, and I think this article is, let's say, I think it's a cautionary tale, really. It includes Magic Leap, Varjo, and Microsoft's HoloLens and all this, and really, it sounds like there could be a hell of a lot going on that you might not want them to. Of course, the state of my eyes at the moment, I probably don't even need to worry. But yeah, long article there to read, but some very cautionary tales or cautionary remarks, at least, in the article there. So you'll find that at vice.com. That's www.vice.com. And it was, well, just go back to, oh, this article is actually May 28th.
Oh.
So this one came through a bit late. You basically talking about 10 days ago for this article. But anyway, yeah, obviously, if you get that off my Twitter feed, you better just click through, and it's just one click to get there. So, worrying stuff there to do with eye tracking, but at the same time, eye tracking can actually be very useful, especially for virtual worlds and virtual reality. So, it's the old swings and roundabouts, really. You live these days and think you can't do without a motor car, whereas back in the days when they were invented, very few people had them. It's just that nobody restricted their use. So, yeah, do you or don't you? That is the question. To paraphrase somebody or other. What's the phrase I'm thinking of there? Can't
Uh,
possibly think. Can't possibly
will
think.
she? Does she or doesn't she?
Yeah, that is the question.
That's the
Yes, it
question.
always is. That is always the question. Another article, because that also is the question. We're back on media here. Black Mirror.
Hmm.
I haven't watched this yet. So I actually have got it, but I haven't got around to watching it yet. So I think it's the very first episode of the new season of Black Mirror. It's called Striking Vipers. Described as a much watch for the fans of the show and also anybody interested in virtual reality technology. It explores intimacy and identity in VR. And I presume the blonde is the VR, and the guy is, well, maybe he's VR too. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, TV has a wonderful way of the BBC or was it Channel 4 had I can't remember the name of it a few months ago, a six-parter thing, Call Me Cry or something, which had a woman who was getting a bit messed around with virtual reality, but they they wanted to make it as real as possible, so the avatars were represented by real actors. In other words, they didn't just make avatars; they actually had real actors modelled into the avatars. There's another one called Humans I'm on at the moment, which does a well, they no, they're not avatars, so it's a different matter. But I don't know why, but they go for this blonde with fringes and hair and leather gloves on. They all model the same sort of image of what an aggressive female avatar is meant to look like. It comes in a blonde model with a fringe and a definite frown on the face, and there's leather gloves that are capable of knocking you into the next planet, kind of thing. Oh dear, dear, what is it coming to? Anyway, the reviews, however, there were some spoilers in this article too. Um, Basically, it's just over an hour long, so it's a mini movie. This episode, really. Um, and it tackles a whole load of stuff, relationships in VR and everything else, and not necessarily male-female relationships. All sorts of stuff seems to have been thrown into this, and the reviewers here seem to be very keen on it. So if you have Netflix, I think if you're in the UK, I think Channel 4 will have this ultimately.
Hmm.
They originated the series, though it's now the producers are now on Netflix. So, but you can find these things around if you really want to. So look out for it. It's the very first episode of the new season 5. That one. Right, moving on to one of our favourite sites. A bit quiet these days, actually. Road to VR. This is road2vr.com. And this post from the 6th of June means it's about 3 days old now. um, This is a bit. I'm a bit out of my depth on this one, but it is, in terms of news, it's obviously in our remit here. Ben Latin from Roads VR writing about it here. Something called Primitive. It actually visualizes complex code for collaborative analysis in VR. So I know in the worlds of OpenSim, Second Life, and TD screens for 3D worlds, there is no point in having an audience looking at a bar chart anymore because a bar chart is 2 dimensions. And by actually conveying all your information in 3 dimensions, people can walk around it, they can walk into it, they can jump up it. They can get a whole different perspective of what the data means because the data maps, as it were, are in 3D as because you're in a 3D environment to actually see it. So obviously, if you're in a hall looking at the PowerPoint show, it has to be a 2D pie chart. Sorry, a 2D pie chart. Yes, tongue twister there. But in 3D, not so. So this actually is a particular thing called primitive, and it does these 3D visualizations of data and source code. It seems to be running on the HTC Vive. Right, and it's one of the handful of companies pitching to investors at 5x this weekend or last weekend in San Francisco. Um, yeah, well, it looks like there's quite a bit about it here. Um, this looks like a normal virtual world in wireframe, doesn't it? But with data instead of objects. But I've seen that kind of thing before. It is actually very fascinating. I mean, if the data in front of you um, is of interest to you and the complexities of that data are of interest to you, I can't really think of a better way of exploring it, quite frankly. It's not the magical sort of photorealistic countryside or shopping experience that we think of in virtual worlds, but it's certainly a
Hmm.
very bona fide use of virtuality, I think. Um, yeah, immerse yourself in your data in a headset.
Right.
Yes, there you go. Right. Sorry, I've got excessive windows popping up here. They do this kind of thing, they're a bit annoying. Right. Can we please dispose of that? Thank you. Thank you. There we are. Right. Okay. This is why, if there is not a Voices of PR podcast that I highlight every week, it is a very unusual week. There are often several podcasts during the week. This is our famous chap called Douglas Rushkoff. He's talking about virtuality. Why not, really? Something called Team Human and the Demise of Counterculture. So there you are. You got it all in one. This is actually an audio podcast. This is at Voices of VR, all one word, sort of squashed together as it were, .com. And the show number here is 768. They go off a few numbers each week. And you've got a bit of information about him there and a bit of a summary. But basically, you then click on the link and listen to the podcast. Voices of VR as a podcast is actually available via various podcast apps as well. You have to search for it, but
Mm.
you aren't dependent totally on going to the site to get it and listen to it. Right, moving on. Right, John Lewis and partners. I'm not sure about this. John Lewis is very well known to people in Britain here. Yeah, it's a major. Well, it is a chain store, but it's not like a high street store. It's sort of a bit more standoffish than that. It's a sort of premium store. Um, Then their partners are about to trial a new visualize your space virtuality experience. Now, strangely enough, they're not going to be doing it in one of their. Well, I've got one of their main London um, sort of stores right over the road here, but that's not going to be included. They're choosing three trial shops, and where are they? I found them here somewhere.
Mm.
Okay, you can see on scroll. Oh, here we are. The trial will begin at the Kingston shop, which actually is sort of London. It's the outskirts of London. They have a shop in Cambridge, which will start on June 28th, June 26th for Kingston, and a place called Horsham, which I've vaguely heard of, but I haven't a clue where it is. That's on July the 2nd. I wonder where Horsham is. I've heard the name, but it's not like a big name. I don't know. Maybe the residents of Horsham would disagree with me, but apparently that's the third test site. So there you go. Um, and they've been doing a bit of research here to AR and VR plays a crucial role in enhancing brand perception. Words like exciting, realistic, and curious are ones that customers are coming up with. And customers connected words included practical, frustrating, and lifelike. Eh? Right. Okay. Well, this is all research stuff, isn't it? Um, so basically, the idea is, I think you still go into a John Lewis store. Well, you do, three trial stores, but they use virtual reality to create a space for you and augmented reality to put products in the space for you. So I guess you can go to a space in the store, plonk yourself down, and then you can pick up all sorts of items from the rest of the store and sort of what I call res them around you. So you can experience all the products put together in one space as like a 3D room to live in. A bit like we even do in Open Sim here, where you just buy a house and a load of furniture, and you don't need to be a designer to do anything. It's just well, it's like home decor. You buy the stuff and then you arrange it your way, and because you arrange it uniquely, you are known as a designer of your own home, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so same kind of thing. No design expertise needed. Just a nice fat wallet to spend at John Lewis while you're on site, so to speak. Okay. I do say that they're not the most expensive of places, but they are by far not the cheapest either.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move in. Anti-latency launches a tracking system for location-based VR. This is more to do with haptics. It's not really tied to anything. Anti-latency are a company in their own right. They demonstrated this at CES 2019. And in this case, they did pair it with an Oculus Go, which of course is the lightweight untethered Oculus. And they got a pretty solid room scale experience, albeit they say with an empty scene.
Mm.
Well, it must have been a highly exciting experience if they managed to have an empty scene and make it exciting. But there you go. Anyway, this is really all about a system for tracking and giving you feedback of information of the stuff all around you in a virtual world or an augmented world. But again, the absolute focus here is anti-latency, or well, I don't think you can get such a thing as anti-latency, but that's the company name. Basically, low or zero latency means that zero latency means that things would happen so fast that you would just not be able to tell the difference between the virtual or the augmented and real life. Um, Low latency, which is the thing you mostly experience, is where things are fast enough that they're very believable. And of course, high latency means basically Linden Labs on a good day. Um, that, that was unnecessary, wasn't it, James?
It's all right. It's all right.
you basically everything goes to
Right.
crawls to a stale space. Anyway, if you
I
want to read
notice.
all about
I notice
yeah.
this has 6 DOF in the title too, or that image does. Your favorite term.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the DOF, by the way, I have been advised is not dumb old fart. It's actually it's actually degrees of
Freedom.
freedom. Right, okay, as opposed to degrees of vision. Or yeah. Okay, so 6 DOF is 6 degrees of freedom. That's what you get with the Oculus Quest. If you've got Oculus Go, it's a 3 DOF. And if you're looking at a picture of Mark Zuckerberg, that's a 1 DOF. It's a solo DOF. You don't need to put one there. You just say DOF.
don't
It's a
count.
DOF.
Don't count your DOFs.
Single dumb old fart. Right. Singular, I insist. Right, okay, I'm getting out of this before I put my foot in it or something else. Right. VR times again. Okay, this is virtual reality times. 3 long words squashed together, um, into one. Virtualrealitytimes.com. And oh, you can see it underneath their logo there.
Yep.
But they call themselves VR Times, but the website is Virtual Reality Times. Right. So again, this was today's, I think. Yeah, this is the last link from the Malbone's feed. Anyway, um, best virtual reality gear for music production. Um, this really, well, it's a reasonably concise article. It could be actually longer. Music production is a very wide field of interest, so to speak. Um, you could be talking about just the audio kit that you want to plug into yourself to get music and good quality sound. Then you're talking about the kit that, in terms of music production, maybe while you're in the VR space, you will be actually, I don't know, playing a virtual keyboard or recording sound or something. And you can also author for what, well, but I'm using the name Audio VR because I can. I don't know if it's in common use yet, but it's the name I use. Imagine you are blindfolded in a completely black room in virtual reality, and in a sense, you don't really need visually to be in the virtual reality at all. But as you move around, sound comes forwards and backwards towards you. So it may be a pre-programmed piece of music where you're walking blind around the various instruments in the band or the orchestra, and your movements dictate the mix, so to speak. Or they could be like our friend Dizzy Banjo used to do in Second Life, and now does with iOS apps, um, where you have literal objects that are actually sound objects in their own right. In other words, they're not just emulating an instrument that you can walk closer or further away from, but the whole tonal ranges and things can be adjusted according to your proximity and even the way your avatar animates. So some really fascinating stuff there. Then take all that stuff that doesn't require vision and combine it, of course, with vision, and it really is a big area for VR. It's as important as music is to film, for example, or music is to people generally. It's audio visual environments have always had a kind of mix to them. So it reiterates the fact that VR is not just a visual experience; it's a very compelling audio experience too.
Hmm.
Anyway, there you'll find an article at Virtual Reality Times all about that. Okay, now Back to our friend Maria Koloff, whose name still appears on our title screens, oddly enough, although she doesn't co-host here anymore. She's been doing a lot more coverage of virtual platforms over a hypergrid business of late. And she's been, incidentally, she has been following up some people from our Hypergrid Discord channel, Hypergrid explorers and creators, which I run there, and obviously people post events and locations and stuff in there, and she's been picking up on some of these to do more extensive interviews, articles with. However, her mainstream kind of stuff is stats. Maria does love her stats, and as you can see, uh, we have one here. OpenSim prices have dropped to an average of $14 per region. Now, the lowest price for a region dropped from $5 to $3, whereas the highest price fell from $60 a month to $50 a month. So everything is going down in price. Uh, what you see is what you get, kind of thing, really. Obviously, these prices are only appropriate if you're actually being hosted somewhere. If you're willing to download and install an OpenSim server on your own machine, then the whole cost of your world assets and everything is zero. Well, by your broadband connectivity fees. Um, so I mean, I'm broadcasting from a 25 region. Well, it's actually a one single region, VAR region. It's huge, colossal, massive, too much space to even contemplate, really. And it cost me absolutely nothing. Whereas even on the cheapest OpenSim, let's face it, even at $5 a region, this will be costing me $250 on the cheapest throwaway
On
grid
a month,
online.
per
So
month, right?
yes,
Hmm.
yeah, per month. Yeah, this is true. Yeah, because 25 regions at $5 a piece is um, hang on, five.
A pretty
Oh
penny.
dear! Don't ask me to come live and do mathematics. Please, please. I'm actually quite good at maths, but not on the spot.
Hmm.
If you see what I mean. I need to sit down and work it
It's
out.
because your fingers are
Right.
busy typing.
Well, quite. Yeah. Median prices went from 15 down to 14 US dollars. This is. Um, Obviously, what you pay depends on where you are. Though you can be paying in euros or British pound if you're in Europe. A lot of people uh, confuse the Canadian dollar with the American dollar, and I know, for example, that if you when you pay $5, well, I don't think it is five. Let's say you pay $15 for something on the Great Canadian Grid, you're paying in Canadian dollars. So in fact, if you're American, that actually isn't $15 at all. It's only about 12. So although you do have to pay taxes on the Canadian transfer, so you need to be a bit careful. But generally speaking, I mean, um, the a region that you could get on OpenSim for, say, a reasonably stable hosting provider who offers a sort of minimal service and 16,000 prims, for $15. I mean, the chances are that's $300 or $400 in a commercial platform like Second Life, who's behind a walled garden to boot. So you can only get people to visit you if they're already in Second Life, which is a hard sell if they're not. So anyway, the general consensus is that rates are falling. You get what you pay for, as I said. If you just want something where you do it pretty much all yourself, and you could go to OS Grid or something, which is full of devs as well. It's sort of cutting edge, but maybe not as smoothly running as you might like. Or you can go to places like Great Canadian Grid or DigiWorlds or Third Rock Grid or uh, Open. Well, there's so many now. You'd actually have to go to Hypergrid Business and look them up, or our server, Discord. Um, there's a wide range to choose from, and when you're making a choice, you may making a choice based on provider's reputation and stability, or you may actually be making a choice based on the community itself. There are some grids, for example, are almost exclusively devoted to role play. Others are, almost exclusively devoted to what you might call digital lifestyle. i.e., hanging out in your virtual house with your virtual yacht in fancy virtual clothes and listening to virtual music and blah blah blah. Lifestyle.
Yep.
Inverted commas. Yes. Anyway, so that's Hypergrid Business. You go to www.hypergridbusiness.com. So Hypergrid Business is all one word, two words squashed into one, as is the norm around here these days. Okay, now we're going to be back there in a minute anyway. Um, right. This actually is a site called Hypergrid Hop. Hypergrid and then hop as in HOP, squashed together as one word, of course. And this a link to this article was also at Hypergrid Business this time. Um, this is a kind of replacement for the idea of Hypergrid Safari, which used to meet every week and go to about three different locations. A little club of people that some weeks a small gathering, some weeks a huge gathering, and you're sort of wandering around the hypergrid, visiting all sorts of interesting locations, arts, landscape, you name it. Sometimes you even crash the location because they were on small servers, but the idea was to be comprehensive. Um, Hypergrid Hop is Grid Hoppers Group is sort of a successor to that. The only thing is it only happens monthly, and as far as I can tell, the only reliable way of following them is to actually um, join the Hypergrid Hopper HG Hoppers group in, of all places, Facebook, which those of you know me means know it means I miss everything because I avoid Facebook like the plague,
Mm-hmm.
as a rule. Um, Anyway, they did have a meet-up during the week, so this is old history now, but there are write-ups around. This is Art and Misty.
Mm.
They took off, as they normally do, from Craft World, which is a name of a grid, at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And there was a live concert as well as the various locations they visited. Um, this Right, let me. Well, to the best of my memory, this was on a Wednesday as opposed to the Thursday that Safari used to do. So for I know for me, it's a bit difficult to get to, and it's also no, I think it's about 8 at night UK time. It's earlier in the day in America, of course, but it's not as easy to get to time-wise for me anyway. However, they went to an embassy at Caligari, Sardinia, Italy. Um, and then they went to Misty Isle, and then they had a concert by Moses Ray, who's one of the makers of Misty Isle. That was on June the 6th, and actually, that's all we've got from there. I've got a feeling if you click around, somebody somewhere would have done a review of that. Maybe Leighton Marjoram will have a review of the
Mm-hmm.
event somewhere. Right, put that away because there's not much else to say. Hubs is a virtual world building and thing for the web, basically. You can create your own hub, which is like a household on the web in 3D. Because it runs in a web browser, you don't need a separate client, and the results are pretty decent. They don't compare with OpenSim or even Second Life. Uh, but they're relatively decent and they're improving all the while. And being on the web, of course, you don't need to download any special clients. And in fact, you don't, as far as I can remember, you don't even need to download a plugin. And once upon a time, sort of virtuality things on the web needed a Flash plugin or a Java plugin or stuff like that. Whereas I think most of those hubs just work straight on the web. I guess it's all HTML5, so you just click on the web link and go kind of thing. And yeah, apparently it works super good on Oculus Quest as well.
Mm.
As you can see there, there's your elementary kind of graphics that you get now, and slightly more nightclubby looking one there. Um, I get put off with anything that looks too cartoony, and I really don't like videos with name tags showing, but there you go.
There you go. Yep.
Good stuff. A somewhat unique undertaking there by Mozilla, who, of course, are responsible for the Firefox browser, which I presume is the one that works best with it, but I think Chrome is just as good. Right. Back to Hypergood Business. I said we weren't finishing with them. Two more to go here. Display names come to OpenSim. This is an article Maria published yesterday. Um, um, Mobius, forget the guy's name. He's on Discord anyway. He sent me a
Royale.
note. Yeah, Royale, that's it.
Hmm.
Um, there's a grid called the Mobius grid, and it's a game themed thing, like in the old-fashioned arcade games and stuff like that, and they play out in sort of open sim virtuality, the kind of stuff. They're on the hypergrid, so you can hop over there easily to have a look. And yeah, here we are. Roy Core is Royale, and he was talking to Maria. Now, I'm a bit confused about this. It says the grid rolled out display names last year, and they've been testing them on the hypergrid display. I actually, um, I don't fully understand myself what the difference here is to the display names I already have. I mean, uh, yeah, I always show up. I don't know where you can see this in the picture here, but this avatar here, for example, Citizen and Mobius is the group. I have a display name, is their display name. And then their actual sort of official name is Royal at May Mobius Grid US.
Account
And when
name.
I
Yeah.
actually hypergrid around, I show as Mal Burns at metaworldoutworlds.net. I think it's this middle thing, the display name, that is something that Second Life has had for a long while, for example, that I think they've brought into their functionality on the Mobius grid. Um, so you can read all about it there. I Okay, I've just seen a bit I didn't read earlier. However, not all developers are eager to see display names implemented, and here we have many who you probably know from Avination or where. This is the lady who donated all the not Unity, the code. The code stuff for an OpenSim viewer from the conference last year. But anyway, apparently, according to Melanie, all active developers despise the feature. So obviously, there's a contentious, hot issue. Personally, I don't give a damn. As long as people can see a display name of some sort, I'm quite happy. Especially as I try and have the same name everywhere I go. Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
anyway, back to Hypergrid Business. You can find that article about the Mobius Grid's display names. And finally, I'm glad Maria wrote this actually because they've been advertising this in my Discord Hypergrid. You know, I never remember it, can I? Hypergrid Adventurers and Creators or something like that. Um, um, anyway, there's been advertised quite a bit, but Maria picked up on it to do a little article about it. There is a grid called the Utopia Sky grid, and they're holding an art fair starting on June the 15th, which is in about 3 or 4 time. Sorry, 3 or 4 days time. It will be running from June 29th to July 28th. And the opening weekend, there'll be special events on the opening weekend and the closing ceremony on the 27th. Um, I've never heard of a date called June the 38th. So there's obviously a bit of a typo going
Mm.
on here.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I don't know what's happening on June the 38th, but I'm pretty sure it's a typo, whatever it is. Okay, now the grid also has their own channel on Discord. If you're on our Discord channel, you're under the link section. You'll find a link to their grid channel for quick joining, so to speak. And if you want a hypergrid over there, it's Utopia Sky Grid or one word.com colon 8002, which is the port number. And if you put another colon in there and go to Sky Space Art Space, that's actually where the fair will be. But I'm sure most grids will have major events like this, teleports available, or something from the grid zone landing point. I'm pretty sure of that. Right. So again, find out more from hypergridbusiness.com on that one. And yes, indeed, that is my last. That's my final
Oh
posty
my.
thingy.
Okay.
And yes, so I'm not going to. I'm just going back to my speed dial, and you can kill that screen.
All right.
Yeah, last week I decided to close my browser to give you a nice psychedelic desktop, and
Right.
then
Right.
after the show was opened, it took me about half an hour to get the bloody browser open again.
Oh, I see.
It's well, I don't know. So the Mac has a very funny way of handling some applications. The old minimize maximize doesn't quite work the same way sometimes. Okay, so James, any thoughts on any of that? There's a bundle of stuff there,
It
really.
was. It was. You know,
Yeah,
I like the idea of the article about viewing data in 3 dimensions.
yeah,
But I really still am not quite certain what that provides a person to see data. And I remember some early experiments with that in Second Life, of doing
yeah.
bar charts and things that you could walk around. I'm still not sure what that imparts to understanding the knowledge, and I should do some more reading about that.
Yeah, I mean that picture showed it a bit like in a Matrix sort of data stream and stuff like that, which I
Hmm.
gather can be quite effective. And apparently, for if you're writing code and things, the way the blocks of code can be distributed as units and closer and further away kind of thing can be a very for those acquainted with it can be a very good way of programming because you just pull in the objects, the components together
Hmm.
in a 3D space. As for the casual viewer, you're right. I mean, a company here in Birmingham, in the UK, Dayton Limited, David
Hmm.
Burton's company, did a lot of what they call war room stuff in Second Life. The war room actually is just a descriptor for like a room full of control panels,
Right.
which is, in fact, the war room was more a newsroom. Um, and they had things like maps and geo placing displays and stuff. And at its heart, it was like a 2D Second Life screen with maybe a Google map and some, sort of geodata tracking going over the top of it. But at its simplest, and I can't remember the name of the. I can't remember the name of the other company now. They did a lot of more basic stuff, and that was they took your example that you mentioned just now.
Hmm.
I forget whether you mentioned pie chart or bar chart,
Bar
but I'll
charts.
use
Yeah.
right. I will use bar chart as an example. Um, if you've got a standard bar chart, it's very easy to tell what the smallest thing because it's not very high, and the tallest thing is obviously the biggest thing. Um, if you see that in 3D and it takes on 3 dimensions, then you probably get a better idea of um, yeah, the comparative size looks a bit different because if the things are fatter, then their height goes down to make them fatter. If you see what I mean, because
Sure.
the data itself is contained within the cube, so the bar chart is no longer a long bar.
Hmm.
It's actually a cube, so it has width, depth, and height all of its own. But the magic comes when you want subcategories of information because within that 3D cube, you can have other smaller, taller 3D cubes representing other elements of data. So if your big cube is user logins for a quarter of so and so like that, right? Within that big cube, when you sit in virtuality, you can actually find say 4 other cubes and they'll be divided into locations. So some will be users in Europe, some will be US, Canada, some will be Australia, and some will be other, if you see what I mean.
Hmm.
Now, that complexity of information, you can walk around it and examine it. And although technically you could have a bar chart within a bar chart on a bar chart, if you see what I mean, you wouldn't be able to get any real complexity of information easily visible. Whereas in 3D you can, and also you can scale it. The bar chart can be the size of a city full of skyscrapers, so you can actually really walk into the minute detail that wouldn't even show up on the standard bar chart. Um, On the other hand, if it's simple, you can shrink it down to something that is just easily to walk around, like so walking around in a model village somewhere.
Yep.
It's adaptability, I think, right? But scaling the size of the display, even though to get more information in, and yeah, just that 3D thing. The other factor, of course, is that technically, let's say you had a bar chart and it was in 3D and everything else, but you had a volume of something and you had uh, volumetric figure and some quantitative figure, right? Because you're in 3D, you could technically add another dimension for time. So you could actually have something like a railway track at the bottom, which represents time, and as you rolled the 3D chart along the timeline, then the shapes would go up and down, corresponding with the point in time you're moving it to.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be able to see the figures for 10 years ago and the figures for now, and maybe the projected figures for 10 years' time, simply by, in the virtual world, going and moving the whole schematic of everything along this sort of extra dimensional track, as it
Yep.
were.
Yep.
It's a bit like a cardboard cutout bar chart on the kids' toy railway, but where it changed depending on what position of the railway it was on.
Yeah. It'll
Yes,
be interesting to see what ideas emerge in that area as more and more people will have access to it.
yeah. I mean, I think it's quite fascinating. I mean, I don't know how easy I would find it to take up these days. I don't find learning curves on anything good now. It's just, I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm beyond my real learning curve age. But I love data and facts and figures and stuff. And the more simple and user friendly an environment is for studying that, the better. And to me, the being having the information in 3D in a 3D environment would actually be a step up in ease of use. For some people, of course, getting into the 3D environment in the first place might be the learning curve,
Right.
but
Right.
for me, I just see it as an ease of use because I'd have an extra dimension of data to play with.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Ah. So, as usual, you trapped me in the rabbit hole for the ending.
That's all right.
Yes, you did. I'm sure we are. I'm looking at our clock, and I think we barely. Well, I think we're actually slightly under the hour this
Just
week. So
under.
we.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Also, we haven't crashed. Gosh golly, how
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been a fluke again last week. So, yeah, I think we're done then for the day. Let's see. We'll be back here same time, same place next week. It will be yes and no. It'll be the second weekend in June. And we are barely 2.5 weeks away from Midsummer Equinox.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is lovely and grey and brisk wind and pouring with rain and makes you wonder why on earth you switched your winter heating off. But in 2 weeks' time, it would be Midsummer's Day. I wonder what that will have in store for us. A nice little snowfall, maybe. You just don't know these days. Anyway, for now, we will be back in 1 week's time, which will be about the 16th, 17th of June, something like that.
Yep.
Um, so, uh, well, it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from him, except he's going to be able to say what are we doing?
Well, it's goodbye. Goodbye from me and goodbye from him.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you get the idea.
That
From the
works.
two of us, goodbye. Same time, same place. Next week we will return. Oh dear. You think you better you better write that out of your diary, hadn't you? Last thing you want is us to return. Cough, splutter. Okay, we will be. Have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.